Coming up on this edition of Cogeco News, ramping up the PPE production across Ontario and beyond. Local companies pitching in. And we meet some more battalion draft picks. Hello again, everybody. Welcome to this Tuesday edition of Cogeco News. I am Greg Estabrooks. Ontario is ramping up desperately needed personal protection equipment, PPE gear, for overworked healthcare employees. Will the need meet the demand anytime soon? Joining me via Skype, Nipissing MPP and Economic Development and Trade Minister Vic Fedeli. Fedeli says production is escalating.
We're more than close. The Premier just tweeted a photo of himself picking up the first box of Made in Ontario masks. These are a combination of one of the large auto parts manufacturers. So we've got Linamar, Martin Rea, and Magna making ventilators equipment. And we've got Woodbridge, the other large part manufacturer, making the masks. We've got companies making face shields. These are large auto manufacturers now who have converted to making face shields. I got a call from one of the other large auto manufacturers late last night saying, just tell us which of these products do you need the most of, and that's what we'll convert our line to. So we're seeing a lot of take-up in the production of our personal protection equipment. When will the production levels meet the need? Well, they're starting to pump out several 100,000 a day already. So, and 10,000 ventilators are coming off of the line from a company called O2 that we've been partnering with. So we're starting to see the Made in Ontario solutions that we plan through our website, Ontario Together. We're starting to see it happen. And I got to tell you, I've heard from 3 or 4 different North Bay or Nipissing area companies. I urge those with an idea, get on the website, Ontario Together. It's ontario.ca/Ontario Together and register and file. We're interested in all of these companies. Now, I must say we're really favoring and working with the ones who can pump out 100 or 200,000 a day. But that's not to say, we don't want to continue to support those who are making masks in their basement. Finally, I wanted to ask you a question that has nothing to do with COVID-19, but it's about the transferring of the ONTC to the Ministry of Transport. I mean, business still has to continue to try to operate in this current situation, and that's a move that I know you think is long, long overdue. Well, look, it's one of those that got lost in the shuffle of all of the COVID news, but Karina Moore at Ontario Northland and her whole team and all of the members of the labor unions, they have fought hard. Their message was heard loud and clear. Every meeting that I had with the labor representatives, every meeting I had with Ontario Northland, it was always, but we've got to move over to MTO to get these two organizations working together so that it also helps facilitate the return of passenger rail. That's part of it, but this is so critical. I think everybody at Ontario Northland did a remarkable job on making sure this happened. All the mayors throughout the North, all of the First Nation leaders throughout the North, this is what they wanted. The government listened, and it's done. Why is it so essential, in your opinion? Well, I think it's important because you've got if you've got MTO who already run trains and buses. That's what they do. Yes, they build highways and other things, but they run trains and buses. You've got this smaller organization in Northern Ontario running trains and buses as well. We're doing the same thing twice. Let's get these organizations together so that we can coordinate our efforts, use the buying power of MTO, use the bulk nature of MTO. MTO, through Metrolinx, has rail cars. These are now more than sister companies now when those rail cars need refurbishing. It's one and the same now. So this was what was so critical. When it comes to social distancing during COVID-19 and the pandemic,
The North Bay Police Service is electing to educate before enforcing. Groups of 5 or less and 2 meters between each person is the new norm during this situation. Clark Heipel has this update.
We have 2 special constables that are out on patrol every day.
Well, Special Constable John Schultz is a man of his word. I was stationed downtown no longer than 5 minutes when 2 North Bay Police Service uniform officers walked down Main Street educating people on the importance of social distancing during this COVID pandemic.
The mission of these special constables is to educate members of the public. So when we get calls, they're going out and they're talking to people and making sure that they know the rules and why they should be following the rules. And we're also asking people to adhere to a general rule that, you know, if you're going to dial 911, that's for an emergency situation, life or death or a crime in progress. If you're going to call in to report something that's more minor in nature or you're really not sure, please use our 472-1234 number.
That was my next question. I have seen plenty of comments on Facebook where people are seeing groups of people and then someone comments, say, call the police. Is that something you recommend?
So yeah, we are getting those calls. We do respond to those calls. Generally speaking, if it deals with this COVID crisis, that's when we're sending out the special constables. Of course, a regular officer will go to those calls as well, depending on where they are within the city. But we're accepting those calls and we look into them and we respond to them.
If the service moves to enforcement of social gatherings, the minimum fine is pegged at $750. Reporting for Cogeco News, I'm Clark Heipel.
As you're well aware, there is an unprecedented demand for personal protective equipment as the coronavirus pandemic is nearing 1.5 million cases worldwide. In Ontario, companies are retooling their production lines to meet the need for PPEs.
Leving's Canvas Company has been locally owned and operated since 1995. Over those years, there has never been such a demand for certain products, those products being PPE during this COVID-19 pandemic. They are making masks similar to the one I'm wearing here and face shields. Let's go inside and take a look at the full production overhaul.
Under normal circumstances, this shop would be producing boat and trailer covers among many other products, but not during the coronavirus pandemic. Additional staff has been hired to produce hundreds of face masks and shields every single day.
We've purchased 5 new sewing machines to help with the production here. Changing ways, cleaning, like we've cleaned our facility, like pretty intensive cleaning to keep things as sterile as possible, as clean as possible. Extra cutting tables, usually it's a staff of 3 to 4 people. Now we're up to 11 people total here. It's been unbelievable of a whirlwind.
So that's a big success story because many businesses are consolidating, if not shutting down entirely, so you're able to ramp up. So that's a unique position to be in right now.
Yeah, very unique. Also feels good. We've been able to give some people that have been laid off from other jobs and had the sewing experience some employment for during this time.
And who's purchasing them? Where are they going to?
We have purchasers from large companies and group homes to some medical staff and just the average person that cannot buy a mask for their protection over the shelf. Okay. And we're sending to all over Ontario. I've got some on the way to BC. We've done some to the East Coast. Very popular areas been Ottawa and the Toronto area.
By next week, this shop is expected to produce 1,000 units per day. Reporting for Cogeco News, I'm Clark Heipel.
Kalen Schlatter plans on appealing his first-degree murder conviction of North Bay native Tess Ritchie. The Toronto man was found guilty of sexually assaulting and strangling Ritchie hours after they met in November of 2017. Schlatter says he plans to appeal on the grounds the trial judge admitted testimony from 2 undercover officers, which he objects to. They were in a neighboring cell, and that the same judge gave, in his opinion, an unbalanced message to the jury before they deliberated. Break time here on Cogeco News. Much more news right after this. Welcome back to Cogeco News, everybody. Another aspect, and there are many, of dealing with the pandemic is how to handle this life or death issue with your children. We hear from one expert about ways to keep your kids informed yet calm about the situation.
Well, I think what's most important in all of this is understanding the age category. So for our kindergarten children, our basically our pre-grade 1 children, primarily it's more about parents paying attention to their own mental health and to their own behavior, because children that are high level of linguistic ability understand their world through the adults that surround them. So the behavior of the adults around them is how they determine their own behavior. So the more anxious we are, the more disruptive things seem to the children around us, in particular young children. That is how they determine whether there's a problem or not, because their linguistics aren't quite there to understand. We can use terminology of, it's a bad bug, it's a nasty bug that likes to travel around. They can get some basic understanding on that, but primarily the way in which they're understanding the nature of this problem is through the adults that surround them. So the more calm that we stay, and in particular, the more that we stick to normal routines, sticking to breakfast when breakfast is normally served, having nap time when it's normally nap time, doing things as normally as possible is how we manage the anxiety that may be transferred or maybe, perceived by the kids that we're taking care of.
Now to the COVID-19 Information Board, lets you know websites you can go to access information. Canada.ca, COVID-19, federally of course. Ontario.ca, coronavirus. Telehealth Ontario, 1-866-797-0000, and myhealthunit.ca. Mr. Heipel will have the complete weather forecast for you right after this.
Weather is brought to you by Canadore College. Great things happen here.
Welcome back to Cogeco News. I'm Clark Heipel here on the Kinsman Club pedestrian overpass over Main Street East. I am here for your 5-day weather forecast brought to you by Canadore College. The streets are abnormally quiet during this COVID pandemic as folks are encouraged to stay home. And as we approach the Easter long weekend, the temptation will certainly be there to visit friends and family over the long weekend. However, this is a big no-no. You are being asked to self-isolate, to stay at home, and avoid contact with people outside your immediate household. So for me, I would be heading down south and seeing my folks, seeing my sister, seeing my nephew. However, I am not doing that this year. I will be staying at home to stop the spread of COVID-19. The more we do this now, the sooner we will get back to normal life. Let's take a look at the 5-day forecast brought to you by Canadore College. Heading overnight on this Tuesday night, it's going to be fairly cool and damp. Cloud cover as the evening progresses, and rain showers and or flurries, and also risk of freezing rain throughout the evening. Low of +1. On Wednesday, the 8th of April, we have a high of 7 to look forward to, but it's going to be a little messy. Chance of drizzle and also risk of freezing rain in the morning, and the cloud cover continues throughout the day into the evening. A low of 0 Wednesday night with chance of snow or rain. Thursday, snow on our way. We don't know how much at this point, but we do expect some snow. High +1 with a low of -4 on Thursday night. Good Friday now, no newscast on Friday, April 10th. High +2, low -6, mix of sun and cloud. And Saturday of the Easter long weekend, high 6, low -1, mix of sun and cloud. Turning the page back to the almanac on Monday, we had a high of 10 and a low of -3. The normals for this time of April, 8 above and 3 below for the high and low. That does it for your 5-day weather forecast brought to you by Canadore College. Greg Estabrooks is standing by with your sportscast right after this very short break. We have a conversation with Ty Nelson, the first overall pick of the North Bay Battalion in the 2020 OHL Priority Selection. All that and more right after this very short break.
Sports is brought to you by Tag Construction for all your construction needs.
Ty Nelson is the battalion first-round pick, of course, the first player selected overall in the 2020 OHL draft. And even though he just turned 16 a few days ago, that doesn't preclude him from making an immediate impact when league action resumes, whenever that is. Just as important as his skill set is Nelson's desire to be a battalion player. We spoke to the youngster on the phone.
It's been an amazing experience. As soon as I found out, I was speechless. There was no words to describe how I felt. I was so happy. Obviously, being an Ontario boy watching the OHL as a young kid, definitely one of my goals was to get drafted just to the OHL, but to get drafted number 1 overall, that's like icing on the cake. It was so amazing. There's no words to describe it.
Now, the battalion organization has been following you closely over the past several months. How closely have you been following OHL teams and looking for a place to play and grow as a player?
Well, I've been focused on the lower end teams because I had some talk that we had interest in some of the lower teams had some interest in me, so I've been following along with them very carefully. I followed with North Bay very closely because they had they started to win a lot of games, and it was looking really good for them because they were in last place and they started winning a lot of games, and I was definitely looking forward to watching their run.
Tell us about your game and the game you look to bring to the battalion.
Well, I like to describe my game as I'm a two-way defenseman. I love to play in the offensive zone and can lock down in the defensive zone when we need to. I love to control and push the pace of the game. I love to have the puck on my stick. I love controlling the power play. I love being the quarterback on the power play. And I love playing PK and blocking that big shot. So I love to do whatever the team needs me to do. And the game, I'm just going to bring hard work, continue to try and make myself better, make my teammates better in North Bay, and definitely going to try and bring a Memorial Cup to North Bay.
Yeah, the youngster's saying all the right things. Mr. Nelson is pick one for the battalion. It seems to many observers that North Bay scored a big steal in their second round pick. Yes, I know every team says that, but this kid, Dalen Wakely, was supposed to go top 10. He ends up going pick 30, again, after many thought he'd be a top 10 selection for sure. Here's battalion GM Adam Dennis talking about the rest of the draft via the telephone.
Dalen's, he was a guy that to be honest, we thought the same. We had him going in the top 10. We didn't spend a whole lot of time with him before the draft just because really we did feel like he was going to be gone well before our pick. Now, the one thing that we were aware of is that it was a deep draft. So right up to about, I think, I'd say the top 50 picks in this OHL draft could have been interchangeable on a lot of teams' lists. And that's just sometimes how it works. And having said that, we went to the 30th pick with our eyes wide open. We were, expecting to really be able to get a very good player at that position.
With the 41st overall pick, the battalion selected Nyhus Matheran from the Ajax Pickering Raiders.
Nyhus, the first thing obviously that jumps out is his size. He's got a really big frame. What's exciting is that he's fairly raw. It's only been the last couple of years that he's really dedicated himself to working out, and he seems to really enjoy that part. So I'd expect him to have some pretty good gains in the off season and the upcoming years. He's a great skater, and that was the thing that really jumped out for us. Not only is he a big hulking guy that likes to play physical in his own zone, and he would consider himself to be a defensive defenseman, but his skating is exceptional. He always likes to get up in the play. He put up 19 points in just over 30 games for his team, and he was the guy. I watched him play against some of the top players in the league, some of the top picks in the draft, and he was matched up against them. He was, there's several times where he would have been matched up against Dalen Wakely, and they went head to head. So really, just when you're with some of the D that we had currently on our roster, I just really feel like Nyhus adds an element that we sorely needed.
The troops got their goaltender in the 6th round.
Yeah, so Dominic DiVincentis, he was a guy that I'd say he was on our radar all season. I'd say he really jumped to the top of our list after his playoffs. So the Vaughan Kings were a good team. I wouldn't say that they were the team to beat by any means going into their playoffs, but they knocked off a couple of the Giants to make it to the GTHL final. And they pushed the Junior Canadians right to the brink, and they had to have that final deciding game to seal it. And the reason was Dom. Dom was outstanding. There was a couple games that 50, 60 shots, and against, as we've seen in the draft, some of the top talent in minor midget, and he shut them down and almost single-handedly beat the team. So he's a gamer. He's the type of goalie that we really covet. And with the young core that we have, we felt that we needed a goalie that had experience in big games, and Dom has shown this year that he can handle it.
Local prospect Brett Richardson of the North Bay Trappers minor midget team also had the opportunity to hear his name called by the battalion.
It was tough on the Northern group this year. I think the OHL Cup becomes a pretty important spot for all of them to really measure up against some of the top talent down south. And everybody was robbed of that opportunity this year, which was unfortunate. But Brett's a kid that we do know very well, and he's high character, comes from an outstanding family. As a 12th round pick, we feel like we got a lot of value in Brett. He's a leader. that we know is going to put the work in, and I would expect him in a year from now to hopefully be jockeying for a position.
Of course, we still have to wait and see. There won't be an orientation camp this year. These kids aren't able to skate anywhere, but it's the same, I know, for every team in the league. One thing for sure, the battalion draft may cause a team to lead the league in syllables in 2020-2021. That's it for news, weather, and sports for this Tuesday. Thanks for joining us. And please remember that everything you see on your TV, including Cogeco News, remains truly local. We'll see you on Wednesday.